SCP-6648 Extended Logs Part 2 Addendum 05 Translation of the text inscribed on SCP-6648-1. Document Title: Translation of the text inscribed on SCP-6648-1. Paragraph 1 to 8. Version 4.6. Progress 65%. Last updated on 08-10-2004. Last edited by Dr. Monroe Idris. Forward. The text inscribed on SCP-6648-1 consists of a combination of 63 different ancient Celtic symbols. Among all the catalogued symbols, 12 are Anatolian, 5 are Gaelic, 23 are Proto-Celtic, and the remaining symbols have no traceable origin. The text was divided into 12 paragraphs, with 6 paragraphs inscribed on the front and back side of SCP-6648-1, respectively. Translation progress to the text is currently ongoing. Translation. Among all the indecipherable, amidst the river of stars and forest of realms, if this letter was found by your watchers, be aware that the lovers are upon your world. They are as indecipherable as they indecipherable. It is paramount for you to know them and help them suffer, as it might avoid your demise. The first in love was indecipherable, clad in azure, indecipherable, and glistening, indecipherable. He was the mighty wheel, the mighty light, the one who breathed lightning into minds. The second in love was indecipherable, adorned with scarlet, indecipherable, and harrowing, indecipherable. She was the valiant sword, the valiant flare, the one who spilled blood into the oblivion. When ice met fire, all should be scorched or frozen. But they saw each other. When flesh met metal, all should be gouged or shredded. But they dreamed together. When the dark pit met the shining crown, all should be ruined. But they loved each other. It was not meant to be, but it was. The lovers watched the indecipherable and indecipherable. Then their children became, blessed by him in mind and gifted by her in form. Fangs against silk. It was difficult, but it went on. The children danced, and their gods sang. As gifted and cursed as it is, the courtesy of indecipherable, nothing truly changed, yet nothing truly lasted. The lovers held each other dearly, but their children did not. Their children decided that 2 gods were too many. Only one shall be supreme. Their children made different choices and learned to hate each other, drawing power from their makers to harm the other. As powerful as they can be, they were no match for their children's hatred. They could Indecipherable. It all, yes, but they could not. When a god learns to love their children, they have a weakness. The ordeal was over, and none was left. The warm, the cold, the living, the dead. All was gone into the eternal, indecipherable. The lovers are not bound to one world. So with a broken heart, they seek. They were many. They were in all worlds. They were all among the earliest ones to be. Yet they were all different. Same in forms and names, but different in spirit. Like fruits from the same tree. Of all their different manifestations, they were the only pair in love. The hateful loathing, selfish love, and desire to reign supreme above the other fused into a horrible plague, seeping deep into their counterparts and children of other worlds. The lovers were spared from the plague, yet they suffered by watching another curse from indecipherable. Branches wilted, fruits rotted, and stars dimmed. Weeping and howling into the indecipherable, the lovers could no longer sing and embrace without sorrow. All other worlds had a different them. They had no clean indecipherable to start all over again. Perhaps they could save one of the worlds, just one, to preserve a fruit of hope from the dying tree. Perhaps they were the real plague, but they were too heartbroken to care. One last farewell, and the deed was done. Their godly compositions and memories polished off like worthless scrap, leaving a tiny piece behind, only so they could survive. Their love for each other was shattered and ground to dust, scattered among their counterparts and children in that one world, to delay the inevitable. In a crude image of their children, they now walk among them, among you, cursed by their resistance towards indecipherable. They grace your land. Be aware, watchers of this world, this letter was a courtesy from the stars, a sister, a indecipherable, of the lovers. The lovers shall never meet, or worlds shall fall. Like the dark indecipherable, and bright indecipherable, they held each other in place, prisoners of their love for the other. Even if they can no longer love each other, the lovers nailed the fabric of existence in place, remaining apart to muffle the screams and struggles of their counterparts and broken selves. Even if they have forgotten such purpose, be aware, watchers of this world, if the lovers were discovered by those plagued by indecipherable hate, what is remained of them shall crumble and melt into their counterparts, who shall rise again to shattering worlds and great peril. Be aware, when the corrupted children of their counterparts sing the songs of hatred and make offerings of twisted love, the lovers shall be hexed by their fervent wishes to meet under the white star, and remaining paragraph untranslated. Addendum 06 Rendezvous Event 02 Incident Log. Incident Log. Rendezvous Event 02. Forward. The initial location of SCP-6648-2 and 6648-3 was City Bel Abi, Algeria, and Tauranga, New Zealand, respectively. Begin Log. On 19/05/2003, 6 months after initial discovery, SCP-2 resigned from its position as a quarry control manager at Electronics and purchased an air ticket to Casablanca, Morocco, online. 6 hours later, -3 applied for a 1-month leave from its position as a ranger at Estates and booked a North America cruising trip online, with Morocco as the final destination. This marked the start of Rendezvous Event 02, and MTF-5-6, Breakup Artists, was mobilized. 12 hours into the event, -2 started driving to Algiers International Airport. At the same time, -3 boarded a taxi to Mount Maunganui Port. As the distance between the entities reached 24 kilometers below antipodal distance, plant life within a 5-kilometer radius of -2 started to display reversed growth at a rate of 2 months per minute, and the weather elements within a 10-kilometer radius of -3 entered an isolated static state. 12 hours, 15 minutes into the event, Team 1 and Team 2 coordinated with Foundation operatives in the local police department to set up roadblocks under the cover story of prison break investigation. To avoid inducing excessive stress for the entities and triggering their anomalous effects, the roadblock only delayed -2 and -3 for 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 1 hour, 30 minutes, respectively. 12 hours, 13 minutes into the event, SCP-6648-2 and -3 simultaneously abandoned their travel plans, returning to their local residence in City Bel Abi and Tauranga, respectively. 14 hours into the event, -2 and -3 resumed antipodal distance. 15 hours, 2 minutes into the event, all anomalous phenomena caused by the entities ceased completely. The plant life affected by -2 resumed natural growth without regaining their reversed growth progress. The weather elements affected by -3 resumed natural behaviors. Rendezvous Event 02 concluded. No casualties were recorded. End log. Closing statement. MTF-5-6 was instructed to propose several feasible procedures for delaying SCP-6648-2 and SCP-6648-3, involving all conventional transportations. Addendum 07 Rendezvous Event 05 Incident Log. Incident Log. Rendezvous Event 05. Forward. The initial location of SCP-6648-2 and -3 was Sidi Bel Abi, Algeria, and Taronga, New Zealand, respectively. Begin log. On 28/09/2003, 4 months after Rendezvous Event 04, -2 temporarily halted its electrical design consultant services on a freelancing website. Internet browsing history of -2 indicated that the entity planned a self-driving trip to Morocco. 8 hours later, SCP-6648-3 applied for a 2-month leave from its position as a ranger at Estates and purchased an air ticket to Fez, Morocco, online. This marked the start of Rendezvous Event 05 and MTF Phi-6 Breakup Artists was mobilized. 8 hours into the event, -2 started driving to Figuig, Algeria. At the same time, -3 started driving to Auckland Airport. As the distance between the entities reached 28 kilometers below antipodal distance, elemental water within a 9-kilometer radius of -2 started to freeze, despite the local temperature of 26 to 28 degrees Celsius. And the confined spaces inside buildings within a 4-kilometer radius of -3 started to expand into 1.25 times their original size. 8 hours, 15 minutes into the event, Team 1 sabotaged the exhaust system of -2's car during a refueling stop, breaking down the vehicle 20 minutes later. However, the breakdown caused a small traffic accident, which led to 2 civilian drivers assaulting -2, despite the entity politely offering financial compensation, triggering the entity's reality-bending effects before Team 1 could intervene. All objects and living beings within a 500-meter radius of -2 were warped to a spatio-temporal state 5 minutes prior to the traffic accident, while -2 and its vehicle were warped alternative route. Simultaneous with the attempt of Team 1, Team 2 added temporary syncope-inducing and paralytic compounds into food ingested by the only ranger available for replacing -3. After the ranger was hospitalized under intensive care, Richard, the owner of Estates, called -3 and demanded the entity to resume its post. -3 sternly refused, resulting in a heated argument between Richard and the entity. -3 was highly stressed when Richard threatened to fire both -3 and the hospitalized ranger, triggering the entity's reality-bending effects. All objects and living beings within a 20-kilometer radius of -2 were warped to a spatio-temporal state 10 minutes prior to the replacement ranger's hospitalization, including Richard. Agent Yang from Team 2 inquired the replacement ranger under civilian disguise, revealing that the ranger only remembered eating in a different restaurant from where Team 2 poisoned his food. 10 hours, 22 minutes into the event, the radius of -2's effects expanded to 15 kilometers. Water molecules in the blood of humans and animals within the affected radius started to freeze. alongside environmental water, despite the temperature of 27 to 31 degrees Celsius. The radius of SCP-6648-3's effect also expanded to 12 kilometers. The confined spaces inside buildings within a 4-kilometer radius of -3 started drastically expanding into 3.5 to 5 times their original size. 10 hours, 50 minutes into the event, before MTF-56 could execute further procedures to delay the entities, -2 abandoned its travels and started driving to Algiers International Airport instead. Simultaneously, -3 stopped at a roadside restaurant and purchased a new air ticket to Singapore online. After arriving at Algiers International Airport, -2 purchased a new air ticket to Ecuador. Internet browsing history of -2 and -3 indicated that their new destinations were River Valley, Singapore, and Ambato, Ecuador, respectively. Team 1 and Team 2 coordinated with Foundation operatives within airlines to reschedule and reroute the flights of both entities, ensuring the distance between the entities deviate minimally from antipodal distance. 25 hours into the event, -2 and -3 resumed antipodal distance. 25 hours, 10 minutes into the event, all anomalous phenomena caused by the entities ceased completely. The water frozen by -2 resumed natural state of matter in accordance to surrounding temperature. The confined space in buildings expanded by -3 resumed original size. Rendezvous Event 05 concluded. 520 casualties were recorded as a direct result of -2's anomalous effects. 199 casualties were recorded as an indirect result of -3's anomalous effects. End log. Closing statement. MTF-5-6 was reprimanded for their failure to properly account for public safety during the attempt to sabotage -2's vehicle, as well as underestimating the severity of the situation when -3 and Richard engaged in verbal conflict. Dr. Martin Flint Jr., the Ethics Committee representative stationed at Site 306, expressed her disapproval of MTF-5-6 sabotaging the health of a civilian to delay -3, despite possibilities of alternative methods. Addendum 09. Research note of Dr. Monroe Idris. Monday, 21/06/2004. Last week was disastrous for everyone on the surface level, but we have learned to see beyond the surface level long ago. It's what we researchers are for, eh? I feel sorry for 5-6 for having to deal with -2 and -3. And, oh God, the casualties. I do hope it will not get worse in the future, but we can only focus on the present. We finally got a viable theory, a new viable theory. Throughout our experience on anomalies research, we have learned that we cannot always trust the records we found on them. The stone might not be telling us the whole truth about -2 and -3, but maybe just maybe, it is doing more than passing down their tragedy. We all see how -2 and -3 always try to move closer to each other during an R event, and how shit can go wrong because of that. But what about the stone? We lost focus on the stone because of the damages caused by the R event. We got distracted. The stone is much more important than what we thought it was. You see, after the SRA incident, I couldn't help but connect the entities to the SRA itself. Why do -2 and -3 have to meet at the stone during an R event instead of anywhere else on our planet? Why does -2 and -3's effects become worse when only one of them is exposed to an SRA? Because they are an SRA. To be precise, the stone, -2 and -3 are like different components of an SRA. We all know that a properly functioning SRA needs a reference point to a baseline reality, the Hume level of 1. An SRA also needs an anode and a cathode, access points to refill missing reality and drain off excess reality. It all fits in now, doesn't it? How the Humes skyrocketed near -2 and plummeted near -3. -2 is the anode, -3 is the cathode, and the stone is their baseline reality reference point. That's why -2 and -3 try to get close to the stone during an R event. They are trying to recalibrate their reality. Just like how an SRA regulates its anode and cathode through the baseline reality reference point when the calibration is off. We understand so little about this anomaly, but we know that -2 and -3 are stable if left alone. This anomaly is, well, keeping itself in a very fragile balance. Something is periodically throwing them off, but we don't know what yet. We need to know as soon as possible. Monroe Idris. P.S. Maybe, just maybe, after we figure this out, we can try to contain -2 and -3 by recruiting them into purposely set up Foundation sites.